Okay, I just wanted to take an opportunity to go over the essay. Okay, this is your first CSA that's going into the gradebook. So we want to make sure that we have covered all of the bases for it. Okay, so you should have read Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox and also Amigo Brothers. And then you should have filled out that other form that I had that had the theme for Amigo Brothers, textual evidence, the theme for Paul Bunyan, textual evidence. How are they alike? How are they different? You should have already done that. Okay. I'm going to page 3 of this graphic organizer that I put in Classroom already. So the first thing I want to talk about is hooks. Okay, you probably have talked about hooks in other classes. So those are the things that you do to get the reader's attention. Now, be careful on questions, because if you say, like, have you ever wondered about Paul Bunyan? If my answer is no, why would I want to read your essay? Okay, so it needs to be something that's interesting. So maybe something along the lines of like, what do two best friends who are boxers have in common with a lumberjack as big as a house, or something like that? That would be an interesting question. Not, have you ever wondered, or can I tell you about? Because then if my answer is no, that is not a hook. That does not interest me in reading your paper. Okay. You can make a statement. You could do a statistic or a fact. Okay, there's lots of things that you can look up about Paul Bunyan. Maybe something interesting there you could put in there. A metaphor or a simile. So comparing two things that are not generally thought of as the same. You could tell a story. You could describe something, or you could use a quote. Okay, those are some possible hooks. Then you're going to pick one of these for a thesis statement. Okay, a thesis statement is basically, you know how when you first learned how to write essays, you'd say like, today I'm going to write about, or this is what my paper is going to be about. Okay, now that we're in 7th grade, we are more sophisticated than that. So we use a thesis statement. So these go at the end of your introduction, and it basically tells the reader what they're going to read about. Okay, so for example, you might choose this one, and you might say, although there are many similarities between Amigo Brothers and Paul Bunyan, the differences also merit examination, or also should be looked at, or also are interesting, however you want to word it. Okay, you might use this one. Some would argue that the differences are too vast or too many between Paul Bunyan and Amigo Brothers, but the similarities are also important, or many, or obvious, or something along those lines. Okay. Third one, although there are apparent differences, the similarities between Paul Bunyan and Amigo Brothers should also be noted or investigated or analyzed. And then the fourth one, the similarities between Amigo Brothers and Paul Bunyan are clear, obvious, few, many, I don't know, what do you think? But the differences are also important or present. Okay, so first you're going to start, we're going to go back up here to the graphic organizer. Okay, you are going to, and you can take these lines out to type in there. You're going to type in your thesis. You're going to choose one of those, okay, for your thesis. Then maybe you want to talk about how they are similar in the theme. So for example, you should have gotten something along the lines about them both being about friendship, but what are they saying about friendship? Okay, so how are they similar? Things you want to talk about, maybe the settings, maybe give some textual evidence for how deeply Antonio and Felix care about each other. And how is that similar to how Paul Bunyan and Babe feel about each other? If you look on page 937, there's some textual evidence from Paul Bunyan that you could use that would show that Babe and Paul both care about each other. Okay. Other things that you could talk about, anything that's similar between Amigo Brothers and Paul Bunyan. Then you're going to talk about differences. Okay. So maybe you want to say, like, although both stories are about best friends, maybe you're going to talk about the longevity of their friendship. In Amigo Brothers, they've been friends for a very long time. Paul Bunyan and Babe just met. Okay. There wasn't a rift between Paul Bunyan and Babe, but there was potential with the fight between Felix and Antonio. Okay, so compare and contrast them. Maybe you're going to contrast them in talking about the genres, or one of them could have been a real story, the other one was a folktale. Any of those things. Then you're going to restate your thesis. Okay, so for example, I'm going to scoot back down here to those thesis things. Okay, so here we said, let's just go with this first one. Although there are many similarities between Amigo Brothers and Paul Bunyan, the differences also merit examination. Maybe that was my original thesis. Now here in my conclusion, when I restate it, I might say that on the surface, Paul Bunyan may not have much in common with the short story Amigo Brothers, but upon further investigation, it is evident that the similarities are just as vast as the differences, or something along those lines. Okay, you restate it. You're not going to tell me the exact same thing that you put in your thesis. Okay, and then wrap it up, conclude. If you can tie your conclusion back to your hook, that's always a good strategy to use. Okay, write it out first. It'll be easy for you guys because you're doing it on the computer. So once you get these pieces in there, you can kind of copy and paste and put them into your rough draft for your essay, and then just do some polishing up on that. So this is going to be the hardest part. Okay, use some textual evidence. Use things that actually happened in the story and go into detail in telling me about those. Okay. Again, I'm sitting here by myself on Wednesday during our Zoom time. Nobody's taking advantage of stopping by and asking questions. We've got our final test next week. So I hope you get those formatives in so we can see if you're ready for the test. Because once we take the test, we're not going to go back and redo stuff for this unit. Okay. So anyway, if you have questions on the essay, please get a hold of me. The rough draft is due on Friday at the end of the day. Okay, so you need to have your rough draft typed out before class on Monday. Okay, all righty.